What's up, guys? We are back again. Okay, and a new bit of a departure from the last bunch of games. I'm still playing Budget here, but I had this awesome game with Budget Breya, of all things, I think last night actually, and thought it was absolutely worth recording. I had another game right before it that was even more spectacular, but alas, the Magic Online interface decided that the game was not going to cooperate, and it dies about halfway through. But this game is actually salvageable, although not without a few problems, which you'll see a little bit later on. I figured out a small workaround to deal with a desync bug that happens towards the tail end of the game, but hopefully we'll be able to get past it without any complication. I'm up against Dan7782, and he is running Captain Sisay. This creature, always pretty problematic for control decks, especially if they go first and get a fast start, but made much stronger now by the fact that it fetches all legendary permanents, including Planeswalkers, and there's a lot of good green and white Planeswalkers to choose from. I'm using Breya, of course, and I have a phenomenal draw for my deck. 3 good mana sources plus a Rakdos Signet. I also have Future Sight, and need just 1 blue to activate it, plus I have Dak Faden, which is insurance against the Sol Ring and Crypt start, and of course I have Winter Orb waiting in the wings as a way to ambush him when he taps out to do it. So very, very happy to keep this draw even going second, and off we go. All right, Dan plays a Forest and Absence Pilgrim. Definitely a good inclusion in the Captain Sisay decks because it gives you just white mana and ramp at the same time. Very strong creature. All right, really just looking to get a 3rd blue mana here, maybe even another Accelerator, but my top priority really is going to be ramping out in front of his Captain Sisay so that I can either kill it when it arrives, counter it, or at least only give it 1 activation before I blow it up with Breya. So that's certainly my game plan now. And I draw Plains. Not too handy. I'm just going to play the Prairie Stream. All right. Let's see what he's doing here. He taps 3 mana. He plays Miri Cat Warrior. That's the creature I haven't seen played in Captain Sisay decks before, but it makes sense to use it. It's certainly a very, very solid creature for 3 mana, and having a good set of legendary creatures to fetch is pretty important because you don't always have lots of mana to get the big guys. It's going to put some pressure on early, plus it makes Dak Faden quite a bit worse. And then I draw Control Magic, which is just about the perfect answer to that Captain Sisay that inevitably is going to come down next turn. So with that in mind, I'm just going to play my Rakdos Signet and a second land and wait. May have made some sense to just play a Plains or something here instead, just to disguise the fact that I have double blue mana. Not that he would necessarily play any differently, but I love the fact that I also have Breya as a backup here easily on turn 3, if in fact the Control Magic doesn't make sense. If in fact he doesn't play his commander. Then he plays Sword of the Chosen, which is a very interesting choice over playing his commander, given that I'm completely tapped out. I guess he just wants to get in for damage, so I'm kind of feeling like this is a mistake when he does it. It does mean that Miri hits me for 4, which is not the end of the world, obviously. It's just a reasonably small chunk of life. But then it all makes sense when he does his follow-up play, which is to cast Mother of Runes. So actually, I like this play quite a bit. I think that leading with Mother of Runes and making your opponent answer it on that turn versus just playing your commander when you have no way to protect it makes a lot of sense. Because if I don't have a way to answer Mother of Runes will be an answer to future removal should I draw it to deal with Captain Sisay. It's definitely a way of making Captain Sisay a lot more sticky and durable. So I do like that play, actually. I draw Seed of the Synod. And normally drawing all this land and artifact mana, not too good, but these artifact lands have the dual benefit of being Breya food later in the game. I draw Seed of the Synod, so that's my 3rd blue mana source, and Future Sight is now looking a lot more attractive. But in the meantime, regrettably, as much as I like the card, and to save it for his commander, I'm not going to have that kind of luxury, so I'm going to just play Control Magic on Mother of Runes here. That's nice, too, because it does answer this whole Miri sword thing. And he's got mana to play his commander, so I just fully expect him to do that next turn and hit me for 4. And there's the Captain Sisay. He elects not to attack with the Pilgrim, which I respect, although probably would have attacked with it. I'm certainly going to, if I'm willing to Control Magic this creature, I'm not going to block with it either. So you get an extra point of damage in, which could matter later on in the game. We'll see. I take 4 there and go to 21. And I draw Necro. I have this card in my deck because it's particularly expensive. I think it's only like $5. And it's so insanely powerful. Obviously one of the most powerful spells in the format. Ban-worthy in the 1v1 commander format. And, top 3 black spells ever made, right? Competing with Demonic Tutor and Mind Twist. Unfortunately, it's pretty hard to cast in my deck, and I don't really know if it should be in here. I do draw it a lot when I can't cast it. Obviously, in the times when I do draw it, it shines, but I'm not able to play with Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, because it's too expensive. And Necropotence is just, I mean, look how far away I am from casting it. It could conceivably be 15 turns before I get black, black, black. And I am running things like a Chromatic Sphere, I think, as a way to get extra colors. But I think I may be removing Necro as much as it pains me to do it. I also don't have Enlightened Tutor to go get it, and that makes it considerably worse. Nor do I have Vampiric Tutor or Imperial Seal, which are generally ways that you get it when you do have the black mana to cast it. I do have Gilded Lotus at least, but it is very hard to cast, and I'm nowhere near doing it this game. So I think about this for a little while. I could play Dak Fade, and I could steal the Sword of Body and Mind. I could also play Breya, and that would give me not only more board presence to compete with the board, but it would also give me an answer to Captain Sisay. But the thing is, casting Breya right now without the ability to actually utilize the ability makes it quite a bit worse overall, because I can just play it next turn and then sacrifice 2 Thopters right away to use the ability. And with that in mind, I decide I'm just going to play Future Sight. I'm going to play for a longer game. He is down to just 2 cards in hand, so the chances that he can answer the Future Sight are low, plus he didn't kill Control Magic anyway. So I feel that Future Sight is going to give me the longer-term prospects of actually doing well in this game if I get lucky with what I reveal. And there's a very difficult to cast Duress on top, but at least something. He's down to 2 cards in hand. Mother Runes has the extra benefit of being able to hold off Miri Cat Warrior forever. And I will not hesitate to block and give pro-green, even if that means he's got some way of killing my guy with green instantly, or some other color with white. So he taps Captain Sisay, and let's see what he reveals. And he reveals Kithion, Hero of Akros, which is a perfect example of one of those. Well, I guess this thing starts as a legendary creature before it flips over and it turns into a Gideon. An interesting card to choose, but he's got quite a bit of offense going on, so I guess he expects to be able to flip that rather quickly. Although it's an interesting choice, given that I've got Mother Runes in play. It's owned by Dan7782, box. But it's cheap, at least. And then he taps 4 mana, and he plays brand new hero of the format, Karn, Scion of Urza, who is also in my main Breya deck, the non-budget version. It is not in this version, of course, because it's very, very expensive. But god damn, this thing is a bomb. It's so powerful and provides colorless card advantage to basically any deck. And in addition to that, it provides the ability to make multiple high-power creatures, especially in Breya. This thing is so insane in the Breya deck. I mean, you can see just the situation right here. I have 3 artifacts. So if I play Karn and make it immediately just makes a 4/4, and then I play Breya on the following turn, and that thing is a 7/7, and I use Karn again, makes another artifact creature, and they're both 8/8s, which is pretty good value for a 4-mana investment. So he uses Karn right away to set aside 2 cards. One of them is Harmonize, which he can cast next turn, and the other is a fairly useless Rona's Monument. So I'm going to give him the Monument, stick the Harmonize in the exile, and then he plays, of course, his little guy. So now I understand why he tutored for a cheap legendary thing. He already had this and wanted to cast it, and so he fetched a one-drop legend. He goes for his Miri play. Since it's got Vigilance, there's no reason not to attack with it in case I don't understand how protection works. But I've been around the block a few times, and I know how Mother Runes work, so I don't take any damage. All right. I really need to draw some answers quickly here. This is getting ugly really fast. All right, well, that's an answer. Holy cow, Soul Ring. That's so good. All right, I'm going to cast that. And then there's my omnipresent hero, Disciple of the Ring. This guy, or I guess it's a girl, shows up so frequently to just steal games that are all but lost. The problem is that I have absolutely nothing to fuel it with. I haven't cast any instants or sorceries this game, so it's basically just a 3/4 that requires me to tap most of my mana. And given the fact that I did draw Soul Ring, it allows me to actually ramp up to 6 anyway, despite the fact that I've already tapped 1 mana. So at this point in time, I decide I'm going to cast my Breya right away. Actually, no. I'm going to cast Breya. But then the question is, do I cast Breya and do I use it? Or do I take this opportunity, knowing that he has Karn running, do I take the opportunity to play Winter Orb here and trap him under Winter Orb? Because even though I don't have a huge advantage in artifact mana, he's got an Avacyn's Pilgrim, and I've got 3 colorless mana available under the orb. I do have Future Sight running and a lot of mana artifacts in my deck, so I feel that if I play the Winter Orb now, it will allow me to ramp steadily ahead of him, and it shuts off a lot of the power of Karn Karn, Scion of Una, or Scion of Urza. Gotta pause. Got a kid calling for me. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. You truly haven't experienced the joys of parenthood until you've had a kid who throws up all over his bed in the middle of the night. But that's behind me, and we're back to the game. So, anyway, I just have revealed a Disciple of the Ring on top of my deck, which I obviously can't play right now. So, examining the situation, I've decided that I'm going to have to play Winter Orb here, even though it means that I can't play Breya and use it to remove Captain Sisay. And I basically feel that getting all of his lands tapped down under the orb pretty much paralyzes multiple things. I don't have to kill the Captain Sisay if he can't tutor for anything that's particularly powerful. And obviously there's still the Gaia's Cradle in his deck, most likely if he's playing with it. Although not everybody has Gaia's Cradle in their deck, and certainly it's not a card in the budget format. But it's very cheap online, and he could play it and make a token with Karn even and immediately get 5 green mana off that, which would be extremely problematic. So I got to kind of gamble that he doesn't have a Gaia's Cradle to fetch. And with that in mind, I'm going to just play my Breya as well as put out Winter Orb and just try to play the slow game here and just hope to grind him out with Future Sight. So down comes Breya. And I'm going to play Winter Orb. And that's it also sort of neuters Karn as well, because even if he's able to get extra cards off Karn, if he's not able to cast them, it won't really help him all that much. And so we proceed. Disciple, definitely not the best type of card I could reveal off Future Sight. Alright, goes back to his turn. He's going to tap Captain Sisay, and he reveals a land that isn't Gaia's Cradle. It's Core Haven. It's kind of interesting. So he plays that. He's going to tap 2 mana, and he has Reclamation Sage. And when this comes down, I figured, okay, well, it sucks. He's going to kill Winter Orb, but at least that does free up all my mana. And it means that Disciple is going to be able to come online easily. Plus, I'm going to be able to play Dak Faden and start cycling past these shitty black cards. And might still be okay. And then he targets Control Magic, which is actually a really interesting play. And I was actually very impressed by this play, because I think a lot of people would have just gone for the Winter Orb as a knee-jerk reaction. But I think that he recognizes that if he can get the Mother of Runes back, it should give him enough board control that along with Karn, I may actually wind up getting screwed by my Winter Orb. So this is a really cool and very bold play that I was very impressed by. So I use Mother of Runes, and of course give Breya protection from green, which will make it immune to Miri for this turn. And then he uses Karn and reveals a Sylvan Caryatid and a Forest. And I choose to give him the Forest, as the Caryatid is very powerful underneath Winter Orb. And Miri comes in. I can just block this safely. Of course, I can't double block it due to the fact that it's got first strike. He'd just kill my Thopters for free and bounce off Breya. Alright, back to my turn. So now I got to draw either a solution of Mother Runes, or I'm going to have to use my Breya to destroy it. Negate. I'm just really bricking off the Future Sight. It's just not the kind of card you want against an active Captain Sisay and a Karn. And he's got this other and huge board now. He's got all this other stuff in play, and I really have a hand that doesn't do much. So with that in mind, after thinking for a bit, I decided I've just got to play Dak Faden. I'm going to take away his sword. And the reason I'm taking away his sword is because I can no longer, because it's backed up by Mother Runes, I can no longer block Miri Cat Warrior if it's bigger. Yeah, so I'm going to steal the sword. And actually what's nice about that is that I have a lot of artifacts in play, but none of them are cards I really want to particularly sacrifice. So stealing the sword allows me to immediately sacrifice it and kill off a creature. Now the question is, what do I kill off? Do I kill off Captain Sisay, or do I kill off Mother Runes? And I think about this for a long time. Obviously there's an argument for killing Mother Runes right now because it's tapped, and once it's off the board, it will give me... once it's off the board, he doesn't have the ability to give protection to stuff. But Captain Sisay, I still feel like he might have Gaia's Cradle in his deck. If I kill Captain Sisay now, it's not likely to matter. And even if he has Mother Runes in play, he can't really push for damage against my defense right here to try to kill Dak Faden, unless he uses Mother Runes to keep his guys alive. And so I believe that if I do that, if I kill Captain Sisay, he probably will attack on the next turn to flip this guy over. And I'll be able to block. That'll force him to use the Mother Runes to keep one of his guys alive, and then I'll be able to kill it on the subsequent turn by sacking some other stuff, including Thopters and these useless tapped lands under Winter Orb. So with that in mind, I decided to destroy the Captain and just keep him from getting Gaia's Cradle. I'm going to send one of these Thopters at Karn. May not have been particularly correct to do that, given that I can threaten additional blocks. But Pro Blue defends against both of my blockers, so it's not really that great. I don't expect that Dak's going to live through the turn regardless. He's already done part of his job. All right, we go back to his turn. Untaps a forest. And he thinks about attacking with all three for a second. And then I actually think that this is a sensible attack. I think he probably wants to get this guy flipped, and he can use Mother Runes to give his guy protection from blue either way. Whatever I block, he can give Pro Blue, but then he elects not to attack with that thing, which means, that it's not going to flip over his guy. I'm not sure why he would do that. Maybe he's concerned about the fact that if he flips it right now, and I have a way of clearing out just his, killing his Miri Cat Warrior and the Avacyn's Pilgrim, that he'll lose the ability to protect his Planeswalker. So I block here, and of course, as I predicted, he gives his guy protection from blue. They bounce off each other, and Dak goes down. And then he uses Karn to fetch, I believe, the forest. We'll see in a second here. Yeah, so he got a forest from the Karn ability. Man, Karn is just such an amazing Planeswalker. It's just as strong as I thought. And then post-combat, he casts Seal of Cleansing. I'm thinking, God, that is so awful for me, because with Seal of Cleansing in play, of course, he has the ability to kill Winter Orb at his discretion. If he kills it now, of course, I get a full untap step. If he doesn't kill it, I get to untap some mana, which means I can sacrifice the orb in response to an activation of Seal to kill a creature, which is obviously not optimal for him, but at least he gets to control when he gets untapped mana. So he plays the Seal and then does not destroy Winter Orb. I would have seen a lot of people who would just kill the Winter Orb immediately there and give me a full untap step. So good job there, Mr. Dan, for not doing that. I reveal Felwar Stone, so I finally get something that really synergizes well with the board. I'm going to play the Felwar Stone, and then there's a Dimmer Signet, which is phenomenal. So I've just added 2 extra Winter Orb immune mana to the board. Now there's an Impulse on top. There's no real reason to play that. I'm very concerned, actually, with... wish I actually knew what he got. I'm very concerned about what he may be able to do as a follow-up here. I fully expect that he's just going to be busting the Winter Orb at the end of my turn, and so I need to keep that negate mana as well as potential Breya mana untapped for whatever is coming up. So I'm just going to attack here, and I send Breya at Karn knowing that he doesn't really have a particularly good block. If he double blocks, I can kill his Miri before damage is dealt, sacking one of these tap lands probably, as well as the Thopter, and that will kill the Reclamation Sage and reduce his offense by quite a bit. In fact, he'll have to attack with the Mother Runes just to turn on his dude. But then he uses the Seal of Cleansing on Breya, which I think this plays a little bit not quite as admirable as the one where he decided to destroy the control magic with Reclamation Sage. This play, I think, doesn't make any sense, given the fact that I have mana available to just sack it and kill Mother Runes. And he's still going to have to contend with Winter Orb. He's had 2 chances to kill it, and he did not take the first one, which I think made sense. I feel like the second one is definitely a mistake. So he's still going to have to contend with Winter Orb, and I've got a huge mana advantage underneath it now. I'm going to get 6 mana a turn, and he's only going to get 2. But I am tapped out for the turn, but he can't really do much to punish me. It goes up to 4 cards. And he casts Blind Obedience, not particularly threatening, although it does make my guys come into play tapped, which is kind of annoying. Then he uses Karn, and he reveals... Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. I'm glad I didn't cut him to this part of his deck. Sol Ring and Sylvan. This game would have probably already been over if he had gotten that part of his deck. So, thinking about it a bit, Sol Ring, of course, much more threatening right now than Sylvan Library, given the fact that I'm on the Winter Orb plan. So I'm going to give him Sylvan, which he can't cast anyway, and the Sol Ring goes into the silver pile. And I've got a negate waiting in the wings for that, at least. So I'm going to have to hold my mana for that. He finally gets to turn on his guy and hit me for 6. He's going to drop me all the way down to 14 life. Okay. Well, I gave some thought to impulsing during upkeep, but I'm in such a dicey position here that I don't feel like I have the luxury of just casting stuff without knowing what I'm going to get. Plus, my blue mana is really scarce, and I know that I need to negate that Sol Ring if he goes for it next turn. So, regretfully, I'm just going to have to draw the impulse. I get a Trinket Mage. And that's quite handy, because it's going to get me mana in the form of the Vault of Whispers, and it also means that I'll have another potential blocker down the road. Good, and I'm glad I did not draw Spell Pierce. That's another total blank. You can see the choices here. Chromatic Sphere, Skull Clamp, not a bad card right now, but I'm really behind the 8 ball. Vault of Whispers, I just need more mana, and that's more black as well. and Wayfarer's Bauble. Of course, there aren't the best options like Opal and Mana Crypt available to me. And then I reveal Whir of Invention, which I was very happy to see, actually, because this is another way, of course, to tap Winter Orb at the end of his turn to get a full untap step. It's just the problem is that it costs triple blue to start, and that's all of my blue mana, which I may not ever have the luxury to keep untapped, depending on what's going to happen. I'm going to keep the Thopter back just to block this little guy. It doesn't really have a tremendously good offense going right now, at least. So I do have some time, although this guy can smash for 4. He actually forgot to use it. Yeah, at end of combat. So it flipped back to his main step. He could have +2'd it, which he didn't do. Not really sure why he didn't do that. Probably just a simple oversight. So now he plays a land. And he activates his Gideon. Wait, how big is this guy? He's just a 4/4. And then he uses Karn to fetch a card from outside the game, which is going to be the Soul Ring. And he goes to cast that with the Extort trigger on the stack. And of course, I've got Negate. Absolutely cannot let him have a Soul Ring right now. And he declines to Extort, which I agree with, given the fact that mana is so precious right now. It's not worth probably spending a mana to deal 1 point of damage. And I'm getting smacked here. I can chump block, or not chump, but I can trade my Thopter for the 2/1 and still take 6, all the way down to 8. Really, really in bad shape. I need a way to untap this orb, and there's no way to do it right now. Merchant Scroll. All right. Well, there's a way to untap the orb. So you can see me tapping some mana here. I did have a instant in the graveyard, and I gave some earnest thought here to just getting Disciple of the Ring into play, and tapping down his Gideon to prevent it from killing me. But the more I thought about it, I just realized that it's kind of just a playing the lose play. It does buy me a turn or so, but this thing is bigger than Disciple of the Ring. He's still got Extort going. I'm all the way down to 8. This thing's still running amok, and I'm probably going to just lose if I do that. Plus, he's not that far away from getting Captain Sisay rolling again. And with that in mind, I decided I've got to take a different path. Plus, I want to use the top of my library anyway. You can see me going through the motions here, trying to figure out if I can cast the Disciple and whether it makes sense. And I ultimately decide not to do that. And I'm going to go cast Merchant Scroll instead. There's an Earthquake on top of my deck, which would have been handy in the past, is total garbage now for this situation, given the fact you can't kill Planeswalkers with this card anymore. It's really frustrating. Okay, so here's my choices. Some decent stuff, although in a low mana situation, I don't have the luxury of, say, Mystical Teachings for Swords to Plowshares. And I was actually intending to go get Cyclonic Rift, and I was astonished to find that I don't have it in my deck, because I guess I have to constrain myself to that $150 budget. It was not an option. And with that in mind, I went for the next best choice, which is this card, Fire Ice. Doesn't seem that good overall, but the fact that it allows me to tap my Winter Orb at the end of the turn means I get all of my land back. And that hopefully will be enough to at least get me to stabilize somewhat. And there's a useless Vandal Blast on top. The theme of this game has definitely been Future Sight revealing cards that are not particularly useful. And I'm going to duress him with the last black mana, and I'm going to take this thing away, the Sylvan, since he's still at 30, and that could be disastrous. Very, very tight situation here. There's a lot of potential damage coming next turn. I'm definitely going to just be chump blocking the Gideon if he attacks me with it and Miri, because I can't go to 2 against an extort card. He could just kill me right away if he has 2 cheap spells. So he reveals 2 guys, a Forest and a Mikias, the Lunarch, and I'm deciding I'm going to just give him Mikias. I'm going to give him the Mikias. And he plays coming to play tapped land instead. It's very nice to see, since I've got Winter Orb in play. And now he's tapping out completely, -1 for Extort to cast his Mikias. So he extorts me down to 7, and I see actually the play that he's setting up here. His intention is to prevent me from having... I don't think that he realizes how Fire Ice interacts with the Winter Orb, so I think that he thinks I'm not going to be able to really play a lot of stuff next turn. Maybe only be able to cast my Breya. And with that in mind, he makes an interesting decision. He uses Gideon on Trinket Mage to Siren's Call it into his Miri, which will first strike it and kill it, and then he's going to untap, probably activate Gideon, use Mikias, and he's going to have a 3/4, a 2/2, and a 5/5 bashing in, and I'm going to be at 7, and that would be practically, I mean, it would basically be lethal. I'd be forced into chump blocks and I'd be tapped out with the Breya. So it's a very interesting decision to do that, and I can see where he's going with this, but it's not going to work out that way. End of turn, Ice, the Winter Orb. I see Condescend on top. Pretty handy. I get a full untap. Okay, so I'm going to pause a second here. I'm going to have to jump ahead 2 turns to avoid the game bugging out. If I just step ahead right now, you're going to see me tap 6 mana, and it's not going to play Breya. It's just going to have me tap 6 mana and then attack with Trinket Mage, which of course makes no sense. But the play I actually do is I tap 6 mana, I play Breya, I tap out completely, and I use Breya twice to sacrifice 2 Thopters to kill Mikaeus and 2 of these tapped lands to destroy Miri, which allows me to attack with Trinket Mage, shrink down his Gideon because it has to attack it, and somewhat stabilize the board. So I'm going to tap this twice. Hopefully that works out. God, I hate this interface. Yeah, and then it just jumps ahead like 8 minutes of the remainder of this game. Oh, Magic Online, I hate you. This actually worked when I did it before. Maybe I'll just do a follow-up video where I jump ahead and resume at this point. In fact, I'm going to do that for people who are interested in seeing the conclusion of this game. But for those who don't have that degree of patience, I will spoil it for you a little bit. I revealed a Duretti off the top here after I attacked him here. And the Duretti made a token, went back to his turn. He just basically played his Sylvan Caryatid. And couldn't really do much else. He leveled up his Karn again, and I was able to attack into a bunch of his guys, kill off the Gideon, and play Disciple of the Ring with some mana untapped. And I think he went for one more play, but he couldn't really do much to get past my really get past the Disciple of the Ring. And I was able to attack in and kill off his Karn Scion of Urza. At which point he was pretty much completely tapped out. That's right, I drew in a Braid off the top, and I braided away the Avacyn's Pilgrim, and I had a Worn Power Stone off the top from the Future Sight, and those cards all combined, along with the Duretti, were enough to basically reduce him to just 1 mana a turn. I had to, at one point, sacrifice 2 artifacts to avoid dying to the Extort, but I was at 6, and from there, he really couldn't do much, and he scooped it up a few turns later. So that's the way this game ended. I thought it was a phenomenal game, really, really kind of cool, dancing around the mana deprivations and having to use tutors to go work around the Winter Orb. I will produce a quick little video just to finish this off for those who are interested. But if you've stuck with me for 27 minutes through the child accident, I commend you, and I'll have some more cool games to come. Thanks.